Zombie apocalypse.
Welcome to this episode of the Poppa Show. Listen, I'm playing with the lighting in here. My God, how do you guys do it? I've got 4 lights going, and my focus keeps coming in and out. But man, if you wear glasses, how do you keep these lights from just glaring up your glasses? Trying to do the best I can with this. I want to talk a little bit more about the way the vid, as I call COVID-19, it's the vid with your interview process and your hiring. What impacts does it have on you, and what is the new wave of doing things, right? I come from the old school, the staffing, where a lot of what you did is you were looking at applications that these people came in and dropped off. We were really getting into the tickler file, just getting into the internet base of things. Yes, I'm aging myself. Monster Board was really where we went and fished for a lot of our candidates. They really would be more so the foot traffic that would come into the staffing branches that I worked at, ran, you name it. Like I said, I've done a ton of that industry. But what is it like now with the vid and all that? I'm assuming we have moved more towards, and this is just, I'm shooting from the hip, because this is where I think I would be if I was still sitting in a staffing office trying to staff, administrative or even staff in light industrial or anything for that matter, is we've gone to the video sourcing, right? Because nowadays a resume is like a dime a dozen. How do you field through all these resumes? Because you can just get bombarded. I know, of course, all these new search programs that you have, like Monster, Indeed, or to name a few, and I'm not being promoted by them. I'm just kind of naming a few. They probably do a lot of the weeding out for you, because now we're isolating resumes by keywords. But guess what? These candidates are just as smart as everybody else. They know that by now too, especially when you get into the ones that are applying now. They've grown up in the internet phase of life. So they understand how that works. Come on. They're even smart enough that if you have to write 800 words and you're just really not making it work, you can white out the letters and it'll narrow down your word count. And it hides it. The irony is I learned that in college. But, all right, so neither here nor there. So what I'm trying to get at is, now what do you do? Because I like the old way of doing things. I like the foot traffic. I like to sit down and speak with people because you really get to understand the person. And we didn't have the ability to weed them out because they would just come in. We did it by appointment and by what our needs were, but we also had to have a tickler fire of hot candidates to go to. So you really just couldn't interview based on your needs, because you would start to run out of what your needs are because you're not getting enough foot traffic in because you are basically weeding through them. So where does the recruiting or hiring today play into that? Well, I like the fact of hopefully you're using Zoom as a screening tool, because you have the ability to sit there and talk with somebody, but you also learn a ton of stuff by what's behind them, right? Back in the day, let's say they're interviewing for office, you were impressed if they came in a suit and tie. Now, if I showed up in my Poppa shirt and I wanted an admin position, automatically I'm judged as I'm walking through the door. I'm not in a suit and tie. I'm not presentable. I could have mad skills, but I would be weaned out of that position just based on presentation. And that's something I'll tell you what, honestly, I did not do. And let me tell you, it was effective because I didn't judge anybody by what they came into the interview for. They could sit down and press out skill sets like you wouldn't believe, typing, their proficiency in Word, Excel, you name it, PowerPoint, whatever it may be, they would be very proficient in that. So it laid me an opportunity to kind of set the road work. At that point, it became, you're awesome for the position. Now you go into coaching. And you may find out that, they've been looking for work. They really don't have the amount of money for, buying all these nice blouses or suits and ties, etc. And it's just an opportunity knocking. So I would sometimes go to the client and say, listen, I have this great candidate. I would sell them based on their skill sets not by 100% their appearance. And if your hiring manager is trying to hire based on looks, unfortunately in the staffing world that happens a lot, and it probably still does. You can never get away from it. However, your skills are better than your looks, then so be it, man. Put them to damn work. And those are the people that were very successful when I did stuff. And then, I hate to say it, I did, bend to hiring based on that. And I feel like shit for that. And I hate to say that. But now with Zoom, you get a peek into their life at home. Because now they've got a camera set up in their home and you can see how they're living behind them. Do you base your interview process off of how their interview process goes or what you see behind them? I will tell you what, if I understand 90% of the staffers that I grew up in the industry with, they would be judging them based on what's behind them. Is it cluttered? Do they not have control of their pets running around? Sometimes some people's houses aren't set up to isolate. They don't have a home office, but they have the skill sets necessary for the job. Are you weaning them out based on what you see? And if you do, that's horrible. That's horrible. You need to understand that based on what you see and what you get can be two different things when you're in this industry. You need to understand who you have and what they're capable of, because that's what you see and what you get. And if you can get beyond what you see, and that's what you're judging them on, then you'll be very successful. If you can't get beyond what you see, you're not going to be very successful in making people stick. You're going to find out that your job has now gone to somebody else because your people are falling out. You need to understand the process a little better. You need to understand the people. And I'm not judging anybody out there. I'm just saying that I know what worked for me in being in this industry for a long time. And some of you still have to know me out there. I was very successful at that. My own downfall was towards the end, I moved. I went into a position that was a niche in regional safety risk management and all that. And I met my demise in the staffing industry after that because I became a dinosaur. What do I mean by that? So traveled all over the United States. I was chained to a desk for 15 years before I had the opportunity to travel all over the United States to make sure that there was a safer environment for our workers in the staffing industry to go to every day so they can go home to their family and loved ones. So after I got laid off, I tried to go back to the normal 7 to 5, 6 to 5. I don't know. My day in the staffing industry always seemed to start at 6 a.m. because I was doing light industrial, office administration. But light industrial, they start early. It was even days I was going to work at 4 a.m. For an on-site and working sometimes till 1 a.m. trying to make it work for somebody. I gave my heart and soul, you know who you are, to someone out there to make sure that that business ran. And guess what? You get chewed up and spit out when they don't like you, especially in this industry. And they'll go to the next best person will give them the better buy for the bucks. In other words, if you can get undercut, and that's it, you're out. And then you got to find your way back to make sure that there's a place for you in-house somewhere in the industry or staffing company that you're working for. And sometimes it doesn't always work out to your favor. In this case, being a dinosaur in the industry meant I was pushing my late 30s, trying to go back into the branch offices. And I dressed to the nine. I had everything I needed. But they thought that being chained to a desk would be boring for me. I was judged based on the last 3 years of my life in the industry because I got to travel the United States and I held a title like Regional Safety and Risk Manager. So when I went to go back to a desk job, they figured I would be bored. Judge me on my last 3 years versus the first 15 years in the industry. Can you imagine that? And I heard it over and over again. No one wanted to take the risk because they thought I was a flight risk. At that point, I would have been happy just to have a job because after I got laid off, it was when things were really bad. So guess what? They judged me based on my last 3 years, not 15 years. And shame on them. And that's what happens. You lost a good worker. Hate to tell you, not to toot my own horn. Papa B says I was a phenomenal worker. But that's what I'm trying to say. You can't judge someone by what's on paper all the time. You have to understand who they are, and you need to not judge them by their appearance. Now, if they're disheveled, you can always say, hey, listen, here's what the environment's like. Here's the changes you need to make. I'm going to give you an opportunity. And guess what? They usually thrive because they've been given an opportunity. 15 people before you just judged them completely and they never got the shot. And that's a shame. So listen, this is just a couple of minutes in the world of staffing to say, hey, listen, take an opportunity, see what's in front of you, or what's in front of them, what's not behind them. And sometimes just because their appearance doesn't mean they're not perfect for the job. And if you can understand where I'm coming from that, then guess what? You're one step ahead of 9 out of 10 people ahead of you, right? Because you're going to be different than everybody else, and it's going to work for you. This is the Poppa B Show, G-rated. I'm out of here. No swears, no nothing. Congratulations. And give those people jobs. They deserve a chance.